And I believe this is the first one where I've had to use really proper circuit logic. So here I have a little flip-flop. And then I have another similar thing over here. I'll talk about those in a second. So come out here, they're all gray. Here's a white stamper. Here's a red stamper. And we have to paint the whole thing white except for this red dot in the middle. So a couple of things. I figured this out a few levels ago. If you put pieces like this, put the pusher, and put things on the end of a pusher, if either of them are touching anything, they'll just freeze together. But if you make it so that when they fall, like that, see how it fell and then the wire hooked up to it automatically even though the game is running, the simulation is running? That is the trick. If it is next to this post, if it is next to a wire, it won't actually work. But if it's not touching anything before it falls, it's okay if it falls next to something, that's fine. But it needs to start out at the beginning of the simulation not touching anything. So, I can see some optimizations I can do here. So let me start that over again. So this thing is key. So I've got these lifters connected to pushers, and the pusher falls down and it connects with this circuit here. And I'll talk about that in a second. But that's what's going on there. So I tried having these come directly out here, but I did not have enough room. This looks like a ton of wasted space. When I tried to compress it, I couldn't figure out how to do it cleanly in a way that would scale beyond the picture second. So it's going to come down here. Okay, it's coming down here. And I take it over to the other side of the stamper so I can have the room here dedicated just to my little pieces of logic. If I put them over here, they start to get in the way. Like when the wire is underneath and stuff like that, it starts to become cumbersome. So it's going to come this way, and notice it's hitting this sensor. This sensor comes down here, activates this pusher. This pusher pushes this block this way, out of the way of this sensor. So, watch this. See, this block is floating above. So when I start the simulation, it'll fall. Now it's not stuck to anything. Now it can move freely between these pushers. So, it's there. This sensor down here, when this thing pushes, this sensor will get activated. And this sensor will activate this pusher to make this thing float. Okay, so that'll cause the whole board back here to be lifted up completely. And then up here is another sensor, and that sensor goes down to here, which then pushes the block back. This sensor gets the block out of the way, therefore it then retracts the lifter. And there it is right there. And then there's a little conveyor belt that takes it on its way. Now, there's an interesting thing. This sensor, when the wall hits this sensor, especially when it's coming down, there's actually a small delay. There's like a frame in simulation-wise. This activates this, which pushes this, but then it takes another cycle in the simulation to activate this sensor. So I found that I had to lift this sensor up for this flip-flop to work. I lift it up off one, so that as the thing is falling, it's not when it hits the very bottom that it activates. It has to activate one frame before. That still lets it because the delay of the flip-flop, it still falls to the bottom, moves forward one frame, moves forward one thing due to this conveyor, and then the flip-flop then pushes the lifter back out. Remember, this lifter falls to the floor. So let's just watch that in motion. It's coming out this way. So here is the top sensor. And that top sensor is going to make this push, but there's nothing to push yet. Okay, so nothing really happens. And by the way, the pusher is blocking the sensor. The sensor doesn't get activated by the pusher. It's called a feature, not a bug. So it's going across. It's going to go across until it hits the edge. Then it's going to fall down. Right? And then it's going to fall. It's going to hit the sensor here in 1 second. Okay. So it's covering that sensor. There we go. So this then pushes that. And this is the delay I was talking about. Right? This sensor doesn't get triggered until this block is all the way covering it. Okay? So then that push completes. It pushes the block in front of this sensor. This sensor pushes out the lifter. Right? And in that delay, the conveyor belt moved it over by 1. Conveyor belt gets pushed out. Lifter gets pushed out, rather. Lifts it all the way up. Up at the top here, actually 1 from the top, again, the delay. Up at the top here, this sensor gets hit. It pushes, causes this pusher to push the block out of the front of this sensor. As a result, so that pushes this block from in front of the sensor. This sensor is no longer firing, which causes the lifter to retract. Okay, comes in here, hits this sensor. This sensor pushes the block back in front of this sensor, which causes the gravity thing to come out. It goes to the top. Here's our sensor up here. Once it gets to the top, that causes the block to be pushed back. The sensor that's causing the lifter to be pushed out deactivates, comes back down. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So this is my little flip-flop state. And that's the way that it works. I haven't tried to optimize this for footprint or anything like that. It's doable. Yeah, I could turn this wire. No, maybe it's not doable. Yeah, it's actually not. Yeah, there's a reason this is like this. You start to back up. So I don't think this would scale very well. I don't think making it faster would help very much. But see, like this one's not even done painting because I'm doing it column-wise. And doing it column-wise, there's more ups and downs than if I had figured out how to do it row-wise. Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. If I could, and I did try to figure out a way to do it horizontally. And I think what you would do is have a similar thing, but have a nested set of lifters, similarly on pushers. Pretty sure that could be done, but I got frustrated with it after a while, and I reset it and tried a different approach. So anyway, as a result of this taking a while, these start to back up. So because this backs up here, and it will wait, and it doesn't screw anything up, which is good, it's durable. The placement of these wires is not as optimal as it could be from a footprint perspective. And I can't put it close to I can't put it close to anything with this lifter. I can't put it close to a lot of things. So it's, but you know, now that I'm looking at this, there is no reason for this to be here, I don't think. I think that can go away. And as a result, I think I can actually, I can't quite see where it got to. I can actually push this whole thing over so that it's on top of this. And because it's even with the conveyor belt here, it shouldn't get in the way of the part that's waiting. So there's one small optimization. Let's just make sure it doesn't break anything. But it still appears to be working just fine. You can see now there's two behind it. So what happens is, yeah, these start to fall over, but again, it lasts. We have this much buffer space until it starts to break. And actually, we don't. We have this much buffer space until it starts to break. So, which is, if this were 20 cycles, then we'd be in trouble, but it's not. So it's fine. So it gets through there. Does a good little optimization. So hooray. Yeah, it's okay, that's worth optimizing. So now this is all painted white. And it comes over here. So it moves it over, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 or so spaces. This is moving it north from my perspective. Then it moves it out one, because we don't want that red thing to touch this at all, except for that one dot in the middle. So we move it over, and we move it one space away from the post, and we move it this way. And here I've definitely got some loose ends I need to clean up, for sure. So it comes over here. Now, there's two lifters here, because I need it to stay in the air when I push it toward the stamper to get its little red kiss here. So up top, what I have here is a little upside down conveyor that pushes it out. So when this gets pushed over, this will immediately want to push it back out as soon as it can. So it won't drag down and make a big smear of red down it. Here's the pusher that pushes it that way. And the way I did this is with a kind of a flip-flop timer. So let's just roll it forward. First sensor is this one here. So these conveyors roll this over a specific amount so that it gets to the middle, the middle column where we want it to be. Okay, and it's going to hit that lifter. Lifter's going to lift it up. Remember, it's one space away. Lifter's going to lift it up. It's going to get to right there, and it'll trigger that sensor. Okay, that sensor triggers another flip-flop here. So that's going to cause this pusher to push this block, which is keeping our state here. It's going to go in front of this. Block here, which is going to push it forward. But notice here, this flip-flop doesn't have just concrete there, another pusher to push it back and forth, right? Because I don't want that to stay. I don't want this pusher to stay pushed. I want it to push it over to get the kiss, have this upside down conveyor, pull it right back. If this is still being pushed, if the pusher is still pushing, the conveyor can't bring it back. That'd be bad news. So it just pushes it forward, and then the conveyor takes it out of the way. Now what these do, these are other more sensors here. These sensors go to this blocker to make it pull in. So this block went in front of the pusher that pushed the thing forward and immediately got carried away. And now what it's doing is it's activating these sensors, which will keep this blocker retracted just long enough for this to go down, hit this conveyor belt, and get the hell out of there. So watch. See, it's going on its way. A little block here, and then it's going to get delivered right back where it was. So this can start all over again. It took a few tries to get this tuned to be the right length of ramp and the right number of sensors. Just took iteration. So that's retracted, so this is going to fall. And remember, the upside down conveyor belt above is what pushed it backward. And when it pushed it back, it did activate the sensor again, but there was nothing here to push because the block hadn't returned yet. So again, that's why we need this kind of little timer here. And then it gets pushed, it rolls over to here, comes out. This little turner is going to turn it around. Okay, just in time. Again, I timed it very deliberately. Just in time for the block to come back and for the block to get out of these sensors. So that pushes that back. If these sensors were one shorter, this would come back too soon and this thing would go up in the air before it hit the turn. Okay, so it turns around. This thing moves it forward a little bit to get it off of the turn. And then there's one little thing over here to push it to the left slightly. Okay. And then once it gets here, this will push it forward, and then it'll get carried the rest of the way. And that's that. So you can see here, see how this is piling up? It's okay. It looks bad, but it's fine. This is durable for the 10 cycles that we need for this to complete. And that's that. So we'll come back over here and take a flip-flop one more time. Wait for a fresh one to start. So this one's getting pushed over, waiting for this one to complete before the conveyor can carry this forward. This one needs to not be in the way. Okay, so these conveyors are now pulling this over, so this is going to go away. This hits this sensor. The sensor pushes the block this way, which gets it off of this sensor, which means that this pusher isn't extended. So there's no lifter here, so this is just going to fall down until it hits that sensor. And that sensor causes this pusher to push our stake block back in front of there, which makes this pusher push this lifter back in place just in time. And yeah, this little section here, I knew it was a stateful thing, but I didn't quite know how to. There's probably a better way to do this. But you know what I'm noticing is there's some stuff here that I just plain old do not need. Like here's some stuff up here that I don't need. I tried to do a flip-flop. That's what this sensor was here for, but I don't need it anymore because I didn't actually end up using it. So that can all go away. This doesn't need, well, it doesn't hurt anything for that to be there. This looks like it's a dead end, but it's actually this blocker, and this thing is going to fall down and connect with it. You see right here. See it connected. Yep. And this doesn't need to be off the ground. This can just be right here. It used to be connected to something, but when I was trying to use something else. And what else do I see? Well, just reduce the footprint a little teeny tiny itty bitty bit. If I take this. So by just moving that around a little bit, now this is above these other things, so it doesn't take up any more footprint. So press it 1 or 2 that way. And then I believe all of this is necessary. I think I already optimized this bit here. And now that I see this, I can see that I don't need these two. So I think these can go away. All right, so let's see if this still works. And then I think we'll call it. Kiss. Goodbye. Yep. Okay, so it works. Great. So watch this at work. Flip-flop is really cool. Got this idea from Minecraft. I learned the flip-flop circuits in Minecraft. And there's some pinball creation program I played a long time ago that had a way to make little logic things like this as well. So let's just watch this go. So watch it. Goes around, keeps the lifter retracted, comes back around with plenty of time for the next one. So there, comes back around. So let's watch it one more time. So that's just a pusher there. So it's the pusher is connected to this sensor. So it's when it comes over and lifts up enough to be in the center. It's kind of fun to see them go up and down like a carousel. Okay, so hit that sensor. That caused this pusher to push this block, which triggers this sensor, which triggers the pusher to push it over toward the red. And again, there's a lifter, upside down lifter up here that would pull it back out. Right? And because this block that got pushed is only there for a second, the pusher pushes out and comes right back. Okay, and then these sensors are what caused this lifter to retract, which means that once this upside down conveyor pulls it back out, this will fall down and hit our conveyor belt. And then it flips around, goes into place. Ta-da. I could probably flip this later, because if you see, when it flips, it takes up a lot of footprint. And if I flip it so that it flips into here, it doesn't take away as much, but I think it's fine. A lot of cycles on this one. Again, I think the gross optimization would be to do columns instead of rows. Because just look at how many of these things are kind of left on the cutting room floor. Uh-oh. One of these got pushed back behind. Still seems durable though. But Yeah, I wouldn't have to go up and down as much if it was horizontal. Yeah. Cut my cycles down somehow. Cut my footprint down by 10. Cut my block score down by 12. So it's not bad. Cycle count's way high, and again, I think the gross optimization there is to do columns instead of rows. But I just don't feel like figuring that out right now. So maybe I'll go watch a YouTube video if somebody else figured it out, and maybe there's some really clever way that'll be an aha moment. But that's that. And the main reason I didn't show some of the other ones is this one required state, and this is the first puzzle I feel like it really required state. And I wanted to kind of record a video to remind myself and to show people how that state works and what it looks like. And if anybody's played Minecraft and used slime blocks and stuff like that for state there, this is the same concept, exact same concept. All right, that's it, and thanks for watching.